Hello once more, my friends, and it's time for another story. This is from r/RPG Horror Stories. Oh boy. DM is a trash person and proud of his violent anti-Semitism. And that's the title. The story's centered around D&D, but it's really about the DM and what a criminal piece of shit that he was out of game. Pre-info. This took place about 5 years ago. Summer after I graduated high school was my first experience playing with a total stranger. My best friend, let's say Bard, went to work at a massive factory nearby where we attended school. He met a coworker who wanted to try his hand at DMing for the first time. We'll just call him DM, so we agreed, and we went to the DM's apartment to play. Bart and I drive to a part of a nearby town that I can only describe as being dangerous. We managed to find DM's apartment. Previous to this, Bart and I had written up our characters as requested prior to session 1. So when we were invited in, we expected to start playing very shortly. This would be incorrect. DM introduces himself to me and then asks Bart, "Damn, why didn't you tell me you were so fat?" referring to me. Admittedly, I was heavy back then. I just kind of laugh it off nervously. Off to a rocky start. DM laughs and tells me that in his house I better be ready to get my balls busted. Okay. This guy might be a dick, but I'm cautiously optimistic. DM then has us stand in his kitchen while he watches the last 10 minutes of the TV show in the other room. There's only one chair in there, despite having a wife and a son that lived with him. So there's nowhere for us to sit in that room. When he wraps up the show, he brings out the table for the session. Well, it's a table in the sense that it's flat and has legs. It's a folding TV dinner tray, the kind you put in front of you if you wanted to eat a meal on your couch. He then sets up his DM shield on it and tells us to hand over our character sheets, and motions for us to sit in the folding chairs in front of him. He takes them, erases all of our stats, and sets them all to 10. All our stats. To 10. He then makes us each make a case for why our characters would be so special as to have a higher stat than the average peasant. I think one of us got one stat to 13 after explaining the backstory. Then he erases the weight section of my character and rolls a bunch of dice that I can't see, and sets my 4'4" dwarf's weight to 2,200 pounds, handing me back my character sheet and making some unfunny joke about that being as close to my real weight as he could make it in real life. Keep in mind, I have never met this person before. I should note here that the DM was in his 30s. The Bard and I were lame 17-year-olds with zero self-esteem. And we didn't have the skill set at this point to speak up when a stranger was doing shit like this. We'd been there for about 40 minutes at this point, and I ask if anyone else is showing up besides Bard and I. No, it's just us. So the game starts, and DM says that not only will he hold on to our character sheets for this session, but since there's only one table, he'll roll for us too. I just ask if I can please hold on to my sheet, because I'm constantly writing all over it, and I can't keep track of my stuff if I don't have it. He seems really put off by this, borderline offended even, but he lets me have it. The game starts cliche, "You're on a dirt road and suddenly goblins attack," yada yada. My character is too fat to walk, so after the combat I need to be rolled into the village to get our first quest. It's kind of amusing. Bard and I have joked about something vaguely similar to this to being my ultimate fate in real life. The quest is to go and kill an evil wizard who's summoning these goblins from his tower. Of course, if the wizard isn't at the bottom of the steep hill out in the open, I can't really get near him, as my character doesn't fit through doors and, again, cannot walk. So trying to make the best out of a bad situation, I go to the general store, buy a bunch of grappling hooks and a block and tackle, etc., so I can be hoisted up to a window or something. While all of this is happening, DM is dropping hints that he used to have a really bad drug problem, though I'm not sure why he thought we would need to know that. Over the course of the session, every time there's silence, he's using it as an opportunity to verbally martyr himself, making comments about how hard his life is and how it's big surprise. Oh, the Jews' fault. Yeah, the Jews. This is the first solid proof I had that DM was not a good guy who just didn't know how to joke around. The session goes on, my PC ends up being hoisted through a window, and I steamroll the wizard down a spiral staircase like a dwarven bowling ball. End of session 1. DM seems pretty thrilled with how well he did, and gives off strong vibes that he thinks that we're all great friends by now. He, once again, is offended that I want to take my character sheet home, as he believes I'll try to cheat somehow? I don't know. Before leaving, I tell him that I may not be able to play for the next few weekends because my grandfather is going into the hospital for heart surgery. His verbatim response is, "Fuck that, don't tell me you can't come. When I found out my grandpa died, I was sticking heroin needles in my dick to get high. I just laughed and went to work. He was a piece of shit." This guy's a fucking asshole. I was taken back to say the least, but wanting to avoid conflict, I just said, "Okay," and got out of there ASAP. On the way home, I consulted with Bard in the car about DM. Bard, being much quicker to forgive than I am, excused DM's behavior and said that it's just his sense of humor. I didn't agree with Bard. I didn't really have anything going on in my life around then, so I agreed to play again, with the caveat that we played at a local game store, because having no table was kind of stupid. A few weeks later, for our next session, I find out that I have to drive the DM to the game store because, big surprise, his driver's license was revoked for life because he got too many DUIs. He gets into the car, blasting the song "Show Me Your Genitals" on his phone, which he refused to turn down the volume on because it's so funny, dude. He had some pretty choice conversation points to talk about on the 30-minute ride, such as how easy it is to steal catalytic converters, and how hilarious it is that he got kicked out of a halfway house for beating a Jewish guy up with a sock full of pennies. Because Jews love pennies. Get it? Get it? He's the chillest dude ever. Fuck this guy. Second session was thankfully short, because when we sat down at a table, he again wanted to hold my characters and spell sheets the whole time. I again explained why I couldn't play like that, and he became enraged and said something along the lines of, "Look, if you're gonna be such a for a whole nother session, you can find new friends to play in. I don't need some, I'm not gonna repeat some of his wonderful wording, like you slowing down and everything." I should have just left him then and there, as it was a walk to a freeway to get home, but I was pretty spineless back then, so I just played the whole session, saying as few words as possible. Halfway through the game, we started to get railroaded, super ham-fisted and obvious way. Our characters were in a clearing with just a wooden table in the middle of it. We decided to pass on the table, but every time we'd step outside of the clearing, we teleported back in front of the table. At this point, I'm pretty non-compliant and just refused to play along with whatever he was doing. So my character's hand was magically lifted out of control and forced onto the table. Next, unbelievably, and I swear to God this isn't a joke, this is what actually happened. He said, "Your vision goes white, and as the light fades, you see her in a snowy forest handcuffed in a horse-drawn carriage. 2 Nordic prisoners." Oh my God. I didn't realize it right away, but I'm sure some of you know what this is. It's fucking Skyrim. This campaign is just being in Skyrim, with one key difference. FYI, everyone else in this world's a giant, though. I said giant like giants, or giant like 7 feet tall. He said fucking giants, that's why I said giants. So I ended the session there because I had to go home to let the dog out, or some preposterous bullshit, and an excuse to just leave. On the way home, I didn't say one word. DM blasted insane clown posse music from his phone. You know, songs about cutting off heads with machetes and evil circuses. Real cool guy stuff. We parted ways, and Bard and I agreed that we were done with D&D for quite a while. One good thing that came out of this, DM really gave me a great view of a kind of man I didn't want to grow into or be around. And I reflect a lot on what I could have said and done better going forward. And I know that I won't let someone talk to me like that again. And perhaps most importantly, I learned about 40 different ways not to DM. And if I'm ever in a bind for cash, I know how to cut off a catalytic converter and sell it for heroin. Hashtag true survivor. What a fucking ride. And what a piece of shit. Oh my god. I have unfortunately met neckbeards and former friends who did shit like that, who talked like that and said this same kind of horrible fucking things. I literally knew a guy from the fucking backwoods, middle of nowhere, Louisiana, who would talk about how he was like just, I mean, he was a fucking Nazi. To be honest, he was just a fucking Nazi, and he would talk about how, like, you know, the Jews are evil, and it's like, I can willing to bet all of the money I have, you have never actually met a Jewish person at all, period. And I'd be right, because he never did. He never left that little bullshit town. There are literally no Jewish people in that town, so he hated an entire group that he literally knew nothing about. And that's the kind of ignorant bullshit assholes that exist. And it sounds like what this guy had to put up with. What a bunch of fucking morons. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe. It'll piss off YouTube, and it's kind of funny. And if you'd like to support this channel so I can keep doing things like this, you can do that by donating to Patreon or by buying something in the merch store. Much like PBS, this show is sponsored by viewers like you. And if you'd like to send in your own story, I have my own subreddit at r/Moonhorse Stories. I look forward to reading it. I'll see you all in the next episode. I love you all, and goodbye.